You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again to kick off our broadcast week with a little bit of the old bi-weekly options extravaganza known around the globe. Once again. Whoa, what we got going here? Loud noises. I'm still coming at you here. My name is Mark Longo, of course, still coming at you here from the Southern studio, listeners, which is why I sound probably a little bit different. I'll be here through the middle of this week. I'll be back in the Chicago studio for our shows later on in the week, like the Thursday episode of the Option Block, Ball Views, all of that fun, but a little bit of Southern studio action coming at you right now. Remember, if you like what you hear, this show, anything else we do here on the old network, then by all means, leave a comment, a star, a like, a review, a comment, whatever the heck your platform lets you do. All of that stuff in aggregate does help new people continue to discover the program. And hey, last year, the busiest year in the history of our network. Again, this January marks 17 years we've been doing this. So we got some data going back a ways, pre-iPhone, most people knowing what the hell a podcast even is. So if you like what you hear, the later reviews do obviously carry more weight. So the more recent comments and stuff, all that helps new people discover the content out there. And of course, if you want to discover more content in your lives, only one place to go: theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to join the ever-evolving party that is the Pro. Lots of fun, live streams, giveaways, couple of Pro shows for every week, Pro Q&As, and Options Oddities, early access to a lot of great content. In fact, I'm going to be doing a panel coming up in about a week with the Flow Master and JJ Kinahan, the CEO over there at IG Group, and some other great people. I don't think it's for mass consumption, but I'm going to try to record that for you folks. At the very least, get it out there for the Pro so our Pro folks can check it out. Should be a fun conversation. Only one place to go to get access to all that fun: theoptionsinsider.com/pro. As we go around the horn, see who's joining us on this now second episode of the Option Block to kick off the new year. And I'm pleased to say we are joined, mixing things up a little bit to start the new year. This is usually where I welcome on the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian. Not today, no sir, listeners. Instead, we're changing things up, going out to the shores of Maine, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome to the Monday edition of the Option Block. I hear from a little birdie we're going to be seeing you on the Monday show more often, sir.
It is possible. You know that Mr. Sebastian, he is so busy with his many media appearances that I just slot in where I can when he's mediaizing all over the place.
And usually joining us at this time, but of course fashionably late to start off the new year here, is the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW. We'll get to him in a little bit. He is transitioning from the mobile office to his actual office, so we'll beam him in when that begins, as the show begins with the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we do just that. We tell you, surprise, surprise, what the hell is trading out there? And it seemed like another day where they wanted to maybe try to test a little bit of that red on the old screen. And now, as we're kicking off the show, it seems like the market shaking off those shackles. Every major index has now turned to the green, even though the Dow ever so slightly. The Dow pretty much unched on the day, 0.01% to the light side. But the S&P feeling its oats today, up about 0.75%, right around 35 handles right now. So back north of that magical, mystical 4,700 level that we seem to be vacillating around. And the NASDAQ, as it is wont to do, outpacing everything, up 1.5%. Now, let's not forget our old friend small caps as well. They've been a fascinating one to watch. I have a feeling they're going to be a fascinating one to watch again throughout this year. Kind of split in the uprights there. They're up more than the S&P, but less than the NASDAQ, up 1.25% right now. So an interesting start to the week after we're coming off a mostly red week out there. That means most of our vol friends today actually taking a bit of a breather, listeners. VIX, when we kicked off the show, shy of 13.5, actually about a 13.30. Puts it down about 0.6 of a point from where it was on the Thursday show. VVIX, same deal, 82 down 6 points from where it was this time on the Thursday show. So vol of vol, again, continuing its retreat from that triple-digit level it was at not too long ago. VXX 1520, again, 6 is the magic number today, down 0.6 of a point there as well. UVXY a little bit north of 8, 810 when we kicked off the show, down about 0.6 as well. So 6 again. Magic 6 today here on the old option block show. Let's keep rolling. Let's go out to SVIX, our inverse friend. No 6s to be found there, 38.25, up 1.5 points. So if that's not a new all-time high, it's pretty darn close. Let's go check right now, listeners. SVIX 38.5, which 38.45, which was set this morning. So yeah, once again, SVIX threatening new all-time highs. Our buddy Mr. Rhodes from VolViews will certainly be happy, even though I do believe he has overwritten most of his underlying positions at this level. So he'll be out north of 38, but I don't think he'll be too sad about it. And of course, UVIX, our ever evolving, ever eroding friend, down a little over 1, about 1.3 points, hanging out at about a 13 even when we kicked off the show. And as we're waiting for the return of one Uncle Mike TOSAW from his sojourn there in the hinterlands, let's go out to the rockingest of lobsters. First off, Mr. Rock Lobster, if you're going to be subbing in on the Monday show quite a bit, it doesn't make sense really to continue with our 80s wrestling trivia game because we all know you can name 3 wrestlers. So once we get beyond the Hogans and the Machos and the Andres, you're kind of swimming upstream. So I don't know. We'll have to mull over what would be an appropriate kickoff game because this is our kickoff show for the week. We like to have a little fun. We like to get the blood pumping, wake people up a little bit with something outside of just straight options data, even though that's fun too. But so yeah, we'll have to
I'm
mull
all
over.
for President Trivia Day, President Trivia Games,
Presidential trivia. I'm trying to not put the audience to sleep. I'm trying to wake them up, make them have fun, right? So if I say, here's your deep physics trivia, that kind of stuff. I just watched Oppenheimer this weekend, so I have physics on the brain. But
did you enjoy that picture?
I did. I liked it. Maybe we can do a movie review, movie trivia thing. I don't know. I think it's very much 2 movies. It's a first half and then a second half. I enjoyed the first half much more than the second half. The second half gets more into the bureaucratic wrangling of his security clearance. It becomes a little bit more muddled with all that back and forth. The first half where they're talking about Los Alamos and building the bomb and all that kind of stuff, that was fascinating, just seeing the intersection of all these all these famous names from the world of physics who all came together for this project, which is kind of crazy. Many of them Cornell professors who were floating around when I was there, which is kind of fun. So you haven't seen Oppenheimer yet?
I have not, because it's me. So
it's definitely worth a watch. It's a good film. I like Nolan. I like what he does, and it's the second half is not bad. It's just very different. And so
Gotcha.
Be prepared for two, one like a kind of historical scientific drama, and then the second half more of a bureaucratic Washingtonian type of drama, right? Where you're watching the bureaucratic behind the scenes wrangling of a security clearance meeting. But but outside of that, yeah, it is an interesting movie. So maybe that could be it. Maybe there's some 80s, because the 80s has been a theme of this segment the whole time. It was 80s shows and then 80s themes, and then we were guessing wrestlers via their themes from the 80s. Then it just turned on into a full-on 80s wrestling trivia game. But something 80s, maybe 80s movies, we could do that. Can you handle that, Mr. Rock Lobster? Have you seen any movies?
Sure, I think we do 80s movies. I got a shot there.
All right, so maybe we'll try that then. We'll let Uncle Mike weigh in when he comes back from his sojourn. Meanwhile, sir, while we're mulling all that over, what is catching your eye in a interesting start to the new year, shall we say?
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, big tech is back with a vengeance. It feels like, doesn't it?
Just got to say those two magical letters, AI.
AI. Yeah, I noticed here I was stuck thinking I would never be able to sell some of these ARM calls, and I just I got out for close to what I paid for them, which is we'll just call it a Pyrrhic victory. Almost breaking even sometimes feels good. So I'm kind of happy about that. I don't quite see what the reason for the rally is, to be honest. I was looking for some real reasons. But did not see them. I guess just that Apple was down 5%, and that was enough. And over the weekend, I thought, how is Apple going to keep growing? Like, it's going to have huge revenues. Don't get me wrong. It's going to generate a lot of cash. But, how long can it keep this multiple up? It historically, as you know, when we've talked about on the show, I don't know, over the last, 10 or 11 years now, everybody's like, Apple stays at a relatively what I would call reasonable multiple. And then all of a sudden, everybody loves it for no reason. And it gets like a 25, 30 PE, which is kind of where it is. And the revenues kind of plateau for a long time. And then, the stock dives. So it looked like it was kind of ripe to do that, but not today, apparently. Not today.
Not, I think, today. Let's look out here. Speaking of today, the game is afoot right now in VIX, sir. Have you seen what the hell's? I just see the numbers and they're kind of leaping off the screen to me. So again, as we're awaiting the return of the uncleist of Mike's, who again likes to be fashionably late. Send your hate mail to Uncle Mike TOSAW at St. Charles Wealth.
I didn't see any. I haven't watched VIX volume.
But yeah, it looks like there's some serious paper. Look, I'll start breaking it down now.
Let's get to it, because now you got me. Now VIX you got me excited. All I know is on a Monday with the weekend, VIX should be up, and it is no longer up.
Yeah, but VIX, usually this time of day, quiet kind of start to the week. You expect a couple 100,000, maybe 300,000 if you're going crazy. 780,000 contracts on the tape right now in VIX, Mr. Rock. So something is it's that strike I always make fun of on vol views. The 47 halves going up again 156,000 times today, this time in May. Somebody has this ridiculous axe to grind on the 47 half strike. They love it. They've loved it. And pretty much every month going forward. I know they love it in March. They have some in Dece. And now apparently they also have it in May. It looks like they went up for 42 cents, 150,000 times, Mr. Rock Lobster. Kind of near the bid, but it doesn't mean anything on these giant prints. Oh, it looks like they may also have been some Feb 42 halves going up around the same time. They didn't go up as a spread, though. So they went up a few seconds different. But Feb 42 halves going up 60,000 times. That looks like a 1x2. That's a Feb 42, 45, 1x2. 30,000 by 60,000 of those. Oh my God. There's all kinds of paper going up today, Mr. Rocklop. This this is an explosion. But yes, definitely catching my eye. I mean, how many times have I made fun of that strike now on Volabuse of who loves this 47 halves? Because the best part is there's a ton of 45s open. You could easily go to the 45s. You could go to other strikes. For some reason, they like to split the uprights. We got to go to 47 halves. And they do it for size. And so I just find that endlessly humorous. And if you are like me, listeners, you find that fascinating, then today is the day for you. Again, right now, 156,000 of the May 47 halves have gone up, followed by 62,000 of the Feb 42 halves, 36,000 of the April 15 puts, and 30,000 of the Feb 23 calls. So you're talking 90 to 40, almost 300,000, 270,000 contracts just in those four that I broke down. If I add in the top five, you go to the Feb 45s, 30,000 of those as well. Now you're at 300,000 contracts already just in those. So today, clearly a banger day out. There's like some other May. Let me look really quickly. Some May, is it the May 22s have also traded today? Could they be doing a 22? That went up 1236 as well. So it is possible they're doing the May 22s. They bought these 30,000 times for $161. Could they have sold 150,000? Are they doing the May 22? What a weird strike. The May 22 47 half. It's not even a 1 by 3. It's a 1 by 5. You like that, Mr. Rock Lobster? Buying 1, selling 5 of the May 22 47 half vertical, sir. 1 by 5.
Oh, that's what it was, huh?
I think. I don't know. I'm guessing they all went up the same time. None of it marked spread, of course.
Of course. Yeah, I'm seeing. Well, as we know, when it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck. 150,000 by 60,000 at least. Oh my word. Because are you saying the Feb 40? And I'm sorry, I'm seeing all kinds of volume at 1236 go up. It's like
exactly. It's a tsunami of paper.
It is a tsunami of paper.
There's like 6 different months and strikes all went up at the exact same time.
Now, do you think? I guess did those calls? I don't know. The calls are trading closer to the bid. The 47 and a half. So it looks like they might have sold them.
Yeah, I think they could have bought 1 and sold 5. The old one,
right?
Which is everyone's favorite trade. Everyone loves the 1.5. Everyone thinks of the 1.5 in the old OEX days, but no, the new 1.5 is the May 22 47 half in VIX. Clearly.
I'm trying to think of what the margin is on that. It's got to be not a small number.
It is bonkers. Hopefully you got a whole boatload of futures in your back.
Yeah, because even if they're going to still charge you, $20 a I don't even portfolio margin, but still, it's not a small number, 1 by 5.
No, even if you're collecting a debit, which if they did do it that way, it seems like they might be because they paid. I had the number here before. They paid $1.61. Then if they sold 5 for 42 cents, they sold it for $2.10. So they are collecting close to a 50-cent credit. That still is you're still tying up so much margin. You're right. Short 4 to the upside in VIX. Yeah, I'm sure your brokers.
I'm just trying. In my head this is one of those trades where theoretically it looks like it could be bullish, right? Because they're like, okay, wow. If we just go from 22 to 44 and VIX stops there, right? Everything will be great. The problem is, what happens to the volatility on those 47 and a halves? I mean, those calls could be worth, now clearly they're looking for the 22 to goes to $10, but even with the 47 and a halves going $2.5, $3. Let me see how that would play out. I'm just doing the arithmetic. So if those go to like $3, that's about $2.5 a contract. So yeah, you would need the 22s to go to about $15 a contract to make the trade even.
Ugh.
If you have the real like Vega explosion. So
It's one of those ones that maybe looks good on paper. You're like, oh, look, I'm collecting a credit. This is how I solve the endless carry problem that plagues all call buyers in VIX, right? I just write a bazillion of the upside. But in hindsight, yeah, and maybe not the free lunch they were
right.
looking.
It's funny. I teach my students, like, okay, when you're trading options, you're trading time, volatility, and direction. Now, all three of those things might not be working in sync with your position. And that 1x4, I think, actually it's 1x5. I was trying to imagine if I was still at Group 1 and I came in with a 1x5 that I just put on in size.
Would be your first and last day. Be your first and last day at Group 1, I think. It would
have not been a pretty picture.
You would get the old tap on the shoulder from the risk manager.
I do remember traders doing like takeover spreads, but in the opposite way in the late 80s, when there was a lot of takeover activity. But they would buy the acquiring contract value, and then they would sell the in the money, and the edge was crazy to do it, but it was a takeover, right? So it's like we were trying to. I remember it was my first lesson. I'm trying to tell. I'm sitting on the desk and I'm trying to explain to the trader. Listen, it was like, I think it was Upjohn. It was like, it's going to be taken over potentially at the number. So those calls are going to zero, and your shorts are going to go up $3 more. Yeah, I don't care if you do it 10 by 1. 10 is going to go to. Sure enough, it was just like. And the problem is he kept doing it, He's like, oh, it's better. It's better. It's better. Yeah, we know. But the problem is, every once in a while, you have to realize that the option model is broken because the inputs to the model are broken. So the Black-Scholes assumes a lot of stuff. And every once in a while, the market says that ain't going to happen between now and expiration. So you get this nasty brew. So thankfully for me, I learned from somebody else's mistake, which is a good thing working for a trading firm when you're 23 years old. You think you're pretty smart, and then you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not that smart. So, but that was an early introduction to the one by a bunch of contracts. Either, and this is the opposite direction, but it is when you have that much contract leverage, it can be quite a slippery slope. That's why you are giggling in the background, of course.
I'm giggling like a schoolgirl here. I'm also giggling because we are finally joined, better late than never, fashionably late, of course, because he likes to make his grand entrance, by the one, the only Uncle Mike TOSAW, the winner of our 80s pro wrestling trivia game. Mr. Uncle Mike, nice of you to finally grace us with your presence.
Hey, you know me. It's all about me, right?
You are doing your best Ric Flair impersonation right now. I expect you to be wearing a boa right now.
There's times to where that would be all that he would wear.
Yeah, right, you're probably right. All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, we have chattered about the VIX as long as we can to buy you time, sir. What is catching your eye out there in the world of the markets today?
In the world of the markets today, all sorts of things, I would say. We're S&P up 30 points roughly on the day. What's not to be excited about? We have that. We're a little bit down in the precious metals, a little bit up in fixed income, so not a major earth-shattering day by any means in any of the things, at least that I had follow. The one thing that I think a couple stocks that we have in our triple income portfolio that we are keeping an eye on just because we're getting closer to expiration and we're getting closer to some strike prices. Apple is still kind of, it's up today, but we're still in the 180s with Apple. And if you'd have told me a few weeks ago that Apple would be in the 180s for the second week of the year of 2024, I probably wouldn't have believed you at first, because after all, Apple never goes down. But one thing that we are seeing today is the fact that we have a green day on the market. We have a green day in Apple. So we got the Granny Smith apples. Those are the ones that are green. So we got the green apples instead of the gold. I don't know what the red ones are. Golden Delicious. I don't know. I'm not an apple connoisseur by any means. But green apple equals green market, at least for today. A couple other things that I'm seeing that are just kind of sticking out to me, at least in the near term. This is a technology-led rally for the most part. We are up almost 2% in XLK looking at the sector ETFs. The only other one that I'm seeing that really is consumer discretionaries are up roughly 1%, but we're not getting a lot of movement in other areas. And so we're getting that. Energy, that's actually down on the day. XLE down almost 2%. And then just a few individual names in addition to the fruit company, of course. We have NVDA up almost 5% on the day, $24. That's driving a lot of things. Netflix, of course, is up on the day today. Microsoft is back north of the 370 mark. So it appears to be, at least for today, kind of a Magnificent Seven type of rally on the day. So we have that, and that's what I'm seeing in the markets today.
Also, the Rock, Lobster, and I discussed an important issue at the top of the show because it is the new year, Mr. Uncle Mike. As I mentioned, you are our reigning champion of our 80s wrestling trivia. But if the Rock, Lobster, and the Meatball are going to be swapping seats on the Monday show, it doesn't really make sense going forward to continue with the 80s wrestling trivia because it would be like racing a one-legged man. There would be no contest there, Uncle Mike. So instead, we have to come up with another 80s-themed trivia or some sort of guessing game that we could do that would be fun and also competitive for both of you. We had the Rock, Lobster, and I did discuss potentially 80s movies. What are your thoughts on something along those lines, sir?
I'm not. I do okay, but I'm not much of an 80s. I'm not much of a movie guy.
So, what would your suggestion be?
Well, how about we go with Chicago Bears 80s trivia?
Another one that the Rock, Lobster, he also suggested woodworking trivia, which is a strong suit of his. So, yes, all of those I think would be equally interesting. Maybe we'll put it out to the audience. Let's say have the listeners decide.
How about something neither of us knows anything about? So if we guess anything, it will be a bloody miracle.
I kind of like that, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, we want to keep it with the 80s theme, right? Because that's kind of where all this started way back when we were guessing like the themes of 80s TV shows and things.
How about 80s political history?
Yeah, we could do 80s political history, just random, like just grab some Trivial Pursuit from the 80s.
The answer to all of them is just Ronald Reagan. So there you go. You win all the guesses.
Well, Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, I guess.
Yeah, maybe throw a little Mondale.
Remember the late great Tip O'Neill?
Yes, Tip O'Neill.
All politics are local. He was a wise man. Yeah, that could be something. I don't know. Maybe we'll put out to the audience. Is that fun? We want to kick off the week with fun too as well. So I don't know. Maybe we'll put it out to the audience and let them decide what would be a fun way to kick off the week for you folks, listeners. Let us know. We already did hit on some of the numbers. I'll hit on some of the rest here. VIX, like we said, just blowing the doors off. The Rock, Lobster, and I trying to unwrap and peel that onion, see what the hell's going on out there in VIX. And we think we might have a sense of it. Who knows? There's literally a tsunami of contracts. About 300,000 went up all around the same time, 12:36, and a bunch of months in strikes. So it's anyone's guess what the hell they were actually up to. We'll have to dig into that a little bit more, I think. SPY looking respectful out there today, all things considered. SPY 4.4 million. So right about where it normally is. Respectable number for today. The ADV right around 7.5 million out there right now. The S 1.75 million contracts right now. Again, respectable. The ADV 3.2 million. Small caps IWM 582,000 contracts. They're looking a little light when you see that their ADV is almost 1.5 million. It's 1.4 million right now. So they have a ways to go before they even get to the halfway mark of their march to their ADV. And the Qs, kind of like clockwork, a little bit north of 2 million right now, 2.3 million. The ADV 3.3, 3.4. They're always at this level around this time of the day, which is fascinating. So that shows that the Qs do the lion's share of their volume before noon. And then they kind of just have a lingering malaise the rest of the day. The final million or so contracts kind of sneaks in there at the end of the day. Interesting stuff. Let's go out to the land of single names. Is it a banger day for single names? The answer is kind of. It's respectable. It's not blowing the doors off, but it's not 150,000 contracts either. It cost you 205,000 contracts today to break into the top 10. That gets you to our old friends BABA. So apparently China is back on the menu today. BABA 72.5, off about half a buck, or nearly 2/3%. And again, good for 205,000 contracts on the day. Number 9, Uncle Mike's favorite, it's our old friend Softy, 228,000 contracts, trading almost 372 right now, 371.92, up a little over $4, about 420 out there right now. So a little over 1% upside for good old Softy. Apparently, AI all the rage again today. 228,000 contracts on the tape for number 9, Microsoft. Speaking of AI, listeners, let's get to our number 8 player. This is Palantir, having a nice run today after dipping back into a 15 handle towards the end of last week. Today, shooting back up 16.85, up 85 cents, or about 5.5%. Again, kind of showing you that this is very much an AI-driven rally out there again today. Palantir, a little bit north of 250,000 contracts, 257,000 on the tape right now. And the number 8 spot. Number 7, keeping things alive in crypto. If you want to come back in a little bit to listen to all the fun going on in the world of crypto, it's our first crypto rundown for the new year, popping off a little bit after this show. I'll be joined by our old buddy, Mr. Bill, on that one to break down all the madness going on in the world of crypto. And spoiler alert, there is a lot. Number 7, 266,000 contracts on the tape for our old friend Marathon Digital Holdings, up another 2.25 today, or nearly 10%. 9.2%. So Marathon, man, they have been on the rampage of late. They're kind of unched net over the last 5 days, but in the interim, they got down to right around $20. They're 26, almost 27 right now. They got up to almost 27 again just last week. So they've had quite the run over the better part of the last week. Over the last month, they're up 57%. So it's been quite the rampage for Marathon Digital Holdings. I know for a lot of you, that is your preferred crypto vector in your securities account, certainly from an options perspective, and having quite the banger day today. Number 6, all the way down at number 6, we find the Amazonians today, 147.75, up $2.50 or 1.75%. So again, also showing that it's not just AI, it's just a broad tech rally out there that is carrying a lot of these names to the upside today. Amazon, good for number 6, 205,000 contracts. Number 5, our old friends across the street, not for much longer though, and also not for right now because I'm not back in Chicago, but this is Boeing, ticker symbol BA. You know them, you love them, maybe you hate them. The market hating them today, trading 230 2/3 off about 18.5 handles, or about 7.5%. So a rough day for them. They had a door blowout, I believe, on one of their airliners recently. So once again, dire news for Boeing, but translating into some options paper, 384,000 contracts. It is funny. Outside of earnings, the only time you ever really see Boeing on this list is when there's some horrific air tragedy. So it's not a good name to see pop up on our most actives most times out there, listeners. And then we have number 4, AMD, the chip zone, coming a little late today. AMD 146.15, up $7.50 or 5.5%. So all these AI and tech names just making back a lot of their losses from last week. 494,000 contracts. And the number 4 spot, number 3, keeping it in the A tech names. It's the fruit company. Uncle Mike just talking about them out there, listeners. Apple up $3 today, trading 184.12. So a nice little pop for them. Still obviously down on the year. Year to date, they're down about $3 still on the year. And Apple, good for the number 3 spot, 683,000 contracts. Number 2, yes, I said number 2. I was just talking about, man, it takes a lot to dethrone Tesla from the number 1 spot, but that's happening today. Tesla, 238.95, up about $1.50 today, and good for a pretty light for them, 890,000 contracts. So not a lot going on in Tesla, not enough to keep it in the number 1 spot. Are we going to see a flippening, as the crypto folks like to say out there? I know the Flowmaster is just alluding to this last week, how Tesla seems to have cemented its death grip on the number 1 spot. But if our number 1 today, NVIDIA, can keep this up, NVIDIA up $23.50 or $515.50 is where it's trading right now, up 4.75%. Maybe that will catapult it into the number 1 spot. NVIDIA today, good for 1.25 million contracts. That's about the level we normally expect from Tesla this time of day. So maybe there will be a little bit of ye old flippening. On the earnings front, listeners, we're starting to get some new stuff on the docket. We got Tilray popping off tomorrow, KB Homes on Wednesday, and then Friday. We're right back in it again, listeners. No rest for the wicked. We've got Delta, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi, and JP Morgan Chase. You know when the big financials start popping off that we are back in it in earnest. The final report for the year, listeners, for our earnings season reports from our friends over there at ORATS came in at 119% for the final quarter season. So that's a pretty banger cycle, especially when you consider our long-term average is 100%. So the order of the day towards the end of the year was more vol. Will that continue into the new year? I guess we'll find out. Oh, you know it's coming in at the end of the year, listeners, when our old friend, announces that that's really the end of the cycle. Helen of Troy. Yes, Helen of Troy. We do have. How many times have we mocked this one? Helen of Troy popping off before the bell today. Ticker symbol HELE. Let's see. They went into their announcement about 116. They're trading 119 3/4 right now. So they were pricing in 3.3%. Actually, they're pricing in 8.2%. They delivered 3.3%. So Helen of Troy actually underperforming on the earnings vol front. So intriguing stuff. We have joked about them in the past, but they also are a sign. When Helen of Troy pops off, you know, the earnings season proper is done, but also, you know, another one's right behind it, and that's what we have later this week. So for all of you who love hot and fresh earnings vol numbers, we got them for you over there. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go as we keep on going right on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, sometimes we get whimsical. We're going to start off a little whimsical today because we're going back to an old favorite, the Hun, a.k.a. Huntsman. We've talked about them a few times. Most recently, we talked about them back on the November 20th show, and there's been a bit of a theme to this name because people like blasting away at puts. Huntsman, ticker symbol HUN, trading about 24.84 right now, kind of unched on the day, up about 2 cents, so not a banger day for them. On the year, though, been a bit of a rough one. It's off 19%, or nearly 6 handles. Was trading about $30.68 a year ago, hit its high in February. Again, another name that peaked on February 2nd. If you're keeping track in your diary, listeners, there's quite a few of these names out there. Once you take the Magnificent Seven away, a lot of names saw their apex the second month of the year last year and never really looked back. Huntsman, yet another one, hit their apex 33 and about a half on February 2nd and then never looked back. They crushed it down to its low for the year of 22.14 on right around Halloween, and then has had a little bit of a resurgence since then, back to where it is right now, 24.83. But all in all, a pretty terrible year. You would think that this would be a rough name given this chart to be selling puts in, but that's exactly what we saw last time. Going back to our November 20th show, listeners, we saw our old friend, the Hun, once again lighting it up to the dark side, someone coming in at blasting away at 8,555 with the December 23 puts. They sold them for 17 cents, so right off the bid. The stock at the time was right around 24 3/4, so the 23 strike, not outside of the realm of reason that they could come into fruition. And listeners, the stock ended up closing 25 and about a quarter. So those 23 puts, a distant memory. They were all still open at expiration. So even though this name has sold off pretty hard, I mentioned it's rallied pretty much post Halloween. So that's certainly the feather in the cap of put sellers out there. And it worked out here. The paper pocketed around 145 grand on this trade. So it seems like somebody, listeners, going back to the well in the Hun today, coming in blasting away at 13,597, this time of the Feb double, the Feb 22 puts. And again, for a similar premium level, 18 cents. So this is another one that looks like a duck and quacks like a duck. It probably is our old friend coming back to the well once again. The stock was 24.46 when they sold these. They are not going to have to contend with earnings, though, I don't think, because the earnings are on the 21st, and no, that is after expiration in February, which, by the way, February, a leap month this year, so going to add a little bit of extra fun. So Mr. Rock Lobster, we've talked about the Hun in the past. We've had a lot of people blasting away at puts out there for size. A lot of them have worked out. It seems like someone going back to the well once again in the Hun, sir. What say you?
In the old Huntsman Chemicals?
The old Hun, yes, sir. Attila coming over the border for you.
Attila the Hun, and I was just trying to pull it up here real fast to take a look. I believe these have always been line in the sand puts in the Hun, unless I'm totally mistaken.
Yes, pretty much, and they've worked out.
Let me see. I'm trying to pull your sheet up. I don't think you guys sent me the sheet today, as you know. Because there it is.
It's there. It's always there for you. You just miss it. Yeah,
the one
eye makes it hard to see.
It's my other day job that I have to just stop doing, and that'll be easier. So yes, all right. Because I knew this brings me back into hey, the review. So they're doing it all over. That's all they do, because you know what? That specialty chemical maker that uses lots of petroleum. I think he was just featured in something about like climate change and petroleum and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, we make a lot of stuff out of petroleum, so what are you going to do about it, basically? So, but I think, yes. What's funny is that they're scraping out like barely I guess they're scraping out barely 1% a month, which is not terrible, right? 1% a month to sell puts. I mean, I guess as an old market maker, it's hard for me to sell anything for 18 cents. That's the problem, I think. But as of right now, these puts are 10.20, and nobody wants any more of them. And it looks like there's some open interest on the 23s in February as well. So I think I think the public, whoever's selling these, again, this is right around Ferrari money. They are quite comfortable with this as a sale. Like, whoever would have thought the Road to Riches was selling 18-cent puts, but apparently it works.
They're doing all right. I mean, obviously you're tying up margin for this, so it's not a free lunch, listeners, but it's a decently rewarding lunch. It's a nice little Gibson's lunch, I would say, Mr. Rock Lobster. So yeah, not the worst trade. Not the worst trade we've seen out there. As we keep on rolling, Mr. Rock Lobster, this one might get my award for name of the day. Our next one is Safe Bulkers Inc. Ticker symbol SB. Is this your new favorite name as well? Safe Bulkers, sir?
Of course, it depends on what the symbol is. Because that's really what tips it over the edge.
The symbol isn't as fun. If the symbol was like bulk or something, that'd be more fun. It's just SB, so that's not quite as fun.
Oh, okay. But the name is because if it was BULK, you would be saying bulk and bulk, and you would have so much fun with it. I don't even know what we'd do.
We would never stop talking about this name. Instead, Safe Bulkers does have a fun name. It's a very on-the-nose name because they are a bulk shipping name, so they're going to keep your bulk shipment safe. I guess it's all in the name there. So a very on the nose, but you can't fault them for it at the end of the day. Ticker symbol SB, off about 13 cents right now, or 3.25%, trading right around $4 for this newcomer to the show and indeed to the network, because I would certainly remember talking about a name called Safe Bulkers in the past, Mr. Rock Lobster. A year ago, they've had a good run. A year ago, they were trading $2.90. So they're up about $1.13 or 38, almost 39%. So a nice run for them. And actually, it looks like a lot of that came, again, post-Fed. They were $2.90 at the start of the year. They were trading $3.18 on November 7th. So they had kind of a wasted year. And they up a little bit, and since November, they've rallied from $3.18 all the way up to, they got as high as $4.19 before giving a little bit back this week. So, wow, they've rallied pretty much almost $1. So a nice little run for Safe Bulkers. They had third quarter results that were pretty good back on November 7th, and clearly the stock has reflected that. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out here today. Mr. Rock Lobster, looks like a bit of a call palooza out here in your new favorite name of Safe Bulkers. Folks can't get enough of the upside out here. We first noticed 5,000 of the April 5s going up for 15 cents. Paper lifting the offer on those. They came back, did 2,500 more, a total of 7,500 as of the start of the show, at least, had gone up for 15 cents. And then on top of that, looks like right around, a few minutes before that, actually, they kind of kept doing them in waves. A few minutes before the Aprils, they also bought 6,021 of the Jan 5 is paying 35 cents for these as well. So a lot of action out here in the upside. Oh, I should say Jan 2025 listeners, not this Jan. So they have a whole year of upside. The fives across the board, April and Jan. Mr. Rock Lobster, what do you say to this upside call palooza and your new favorite name, Safe Bulkers?
So do they keep changing the name of these dry bulk shipping vessels?
There have been a few of these. There's dry ships, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, haven't they? Like it always seems like they kind of have the stock sort of run, and then all of a sudden it just becomes a disaster, and then they're stuck with all these ships, and nobody wants to ship anything on them anymore, and they all seem to be, registered in Greece.
Yeah, a lot of that. Yes. Are you implying that there's something shady to the massive bulk shipping industry, sir? They're all changing their names.
It's just I think it's probably very good for the 8 or 9 people who actually know what's going on in the whole global industry. Clearly, because you got to employ a lot of people to drive the ships and stuff and work on the ships. But it's like one of these, like trying to follow these stocks is a little nutty. So in this particular case, somebody's just decided to go. Was it YOLOing with these calls here? Yeah, so this is a classic thing where, oh, wow, okay, so they bought April, so I wonder if they rolled out of their Jan and into April?
No, those are Jan 2025. I thought that at first, too, but those are Jan
okay. Yeah, you're right. Let's see here. Wow. It almost looks like they're either closing or they're buying more. Why would they roll backward?
Yeah, the backwards roll would be, again, it makes about as much sense as that 1x5 in VIX.
Yeah. Then again, that's why it's called the odd block. So to me, you're looking at this volume, you know that the float on these things are fairly tight, right? And then all of a sudden they come in just jamming all these upside calls. It has, I would mark this to be watched as just fishy business. It looks just like fishy business to me, like the Jan, unless they are somehow going out because the April's opening and maybe they're just adding more Jan. I guess we'll take a look if the open interest is over 70. It's worth probably like by Thursday's show or certainly by oddities. We should take another look and see if some of this open interest has grown.
Yeah.
I mean, because this has all the look. It has the look of a squeeze, even though the option prices aren't really saying squeeze. Let's see here. Where's the stock? Yeah, the stock is $4 and the puts are $1. I mean, there's no real squeeze volume on the from the vol on the options from what I can tell. So I don't know. This is definitely an interesting one that, as Mark would say, it smells like somebody's cheating on this one.
Yeah, maybe Safe Bulkers, the next big squeeze name, listeners. Here, our chat's loving it. Our chat loves the name. Some people saying they might buy these calls just for the name. They like the name so much. So there you go. Never let it be said. Our chat sometimes.
It's nice to know that all the work you've done on the radio educating traders, and it's just down to, that name sounds good. I think I'll buy a 10 lot.
That name sounds awesome. Hey, you know what? Sometimes you just you can't win if you don't play, Mr. Rocklop.
Exactly. Well, you know what? Your epitaph has been written now on your tombstone.
I like that ticker. I'm going to buy those. Famous last.
I want to buy 100.
You know what's not famous last words, though, because he's just getting started for the new year. It's the strategy block. So let's get to it.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, listeners, you guys and gals, we're all waiting patiently last week for the return of the strategy block. He had to wait one more day, but he is now finally ready. He has his thoughts together for the first strategy block of the new year. Uncle Mike, what you got in store for us, sir?
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to 2024. With it being 2024, we are now in a new IRA season. So a question that comes up a lot of times for people is, should I put money into a Roth IRA? Should I put money into a traditional IRA? And the same thing can hold true with your 401k at work. A lot of times people feel that they need to be in one versus the other. And I'm not here to tell you which one to put into, but what I am here to tell you is how important this is to understand that this is a very individualized decision. So what I mean by that is we talk about on the show our trading rules that we all have. Like one of mine, for example, if I ever were to sell a short put for $1, as soon as the value of that put would go to 20 cents before expiration, assuming that I don't want to own the stock, I would get out of it at 20 cents. And that's my trading rule. And I think it's a good rule for just about anybody. Now, you could argue maybe it's 90%, maybe it's 80% or whatever. But that's a type of rule that you could use and apply to anybody in any situation. And I know we've talked about on this show, if you have short options, if you just have like a penny left or something like that or whatever, get out of it. That's something that's just wise for everybody. Well, with a Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA, it's not quite that simple. And the reason is that everyone's going to have their own situation that's different for them. So, for example, one of my clients, he's a former NFL football player. He just finished 2 years ago, and he just retired 2 years ago. And in the NFL, what it means by retired is that means that no one's willing to sign you, because very few people actually do willingly retire from playing NFL football. But with that being said, in his situation, when we had money in his Roth IRA, in a Roth IRA, we did it because of the fact that he had to contribute to a traditional 401k. Now, it made sense in his situation to contribute to a traditional 401k because of the fact that he is in a very high tax bracket. NFL football players make lots of money, and he'll likely be in a lower tax bracket when he takes money out when he is 59 and a half. Now, with that, what we were able to do is set something up for him called a backdoor Roth IRA. So we were able to have a little bit of both. We weren't able to put money into a traditional IRA because he was covered by a retirement plan at work. I mean, we could put money in a traditional IRA, but we wouldn't be able to deduct it. And we'd still have to pay, or he would still have to pay taxes upon withdrawals when he's 59 and a half years old. So it's because of that, in his individual situation, step one, max out the traditional 401k, get as much of a deduction as you can. Step two, put in a backdoor Roth IRA. Now, another situation of someone with whom I have is somebody who is not making a lot of money at this stage. They're in a lower tax bracket. If that's the case, then a Roth IRA might be something to consider. I have a client, a few years ago, what he was able to do when he had a loss because of work, he had a loss of, I'm just going to make up a number here, of $20,000. He had a net operating loss. Well, at that time, he had a traditional IRA worth roughly $20,000. Once again, I'm just making up these numbers, but it is a true story from a true client. I just don't want to give the exact numbers on it. But what he then did with his traditional IRA, he converted it to a Roth IRA. It did not cost him anything because he had a loss for that same year that matched the amount that he actually converted. So where I'm going with this is that general rules for finance, such as you don't want to get into credit card debt, you want to close out short options before expiration, things like that, those can apply to anybody. But in terms of whether you should do a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, a traditional 401k, a Roth 401k, or a little bit of both, or should you convert, those questions are all different for different people in different situations. I do have software that analyzes this for clients. If you're ever interested in it, I'll talk more about that on Around the Block. But with that being said, I would encourage you to make sure that you're making your decision based upon your situation and not general financial advice. And that is the trading block for today.
Also the strategy block, but we can rename it the trading block if you like. We can have 2 trading blocks in the
Like I said, Mark, it's all about me. It's all about me.
I think we've all learned that today. A new year, a new Uncle Mike listeners. A little bit more hardcore out there as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everyone, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show we tell you what we're keeping an eye on for the rest of the week into the old weekend. And looking right now really quickly on our poll numbers, our poll for last week to kick off the new year. We always do our sentiment poll. We asked you quite simply, buy a 10% out of the money call expiring at the end of the year. What are the 4 asset classes? Which one are you choosing? Volatility, equities, fixed income, or crypto? And Vol took it with 41.7%, followed by exactly a third, 33.3% coming in for equities, 16.7% for crypto. So crypto getting some more love than this time a year ago, and 8.3% for fixed income. So no love for Uncle Mike's 10-year. Our question this week, kind of carrying on the broad sentiment polling of our audience at the beginning of the year, asking you a very straightforward one right now. Quite simply, will the S&P 500 close positive on the year? Heck yes, heck no, or who cares? I'm in crypto. Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you. What is your vote? You going heck yes, heck no, or who cares? I'm in crypto. B, what do you think our audience is voting for? And C, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week, sir?
Funny, I'm going to say it's an election year, so generally we rally because there's like some good feelings. New president, whether everybody likes him or not, doesn't seem to matter. It's just it's new, it's shiny and new. So I'm going to say the people saying we're going higher, and I'm saying we're going higher.
Interesting. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week, sir?
Well, we got this curious. We got the holiday. We got volatility here on a Monday. VIX down for the day. And how, again, we had like this massive move up. So mostly, can we see like VIX getting to the lows we had around Christmas? That's basically it. Can we get there before the earnings start to roll in, or if bank earnings roll in, do we kind of the vol crush start on Friday prior to? So I'm kind of looking for opportunities right around there. But this bounce in AI just makes me think we're going to go back to 4,800 again. Because why not?
Why not indeed? Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. Even though I don't really have to ask if you think the market's going to close up. So let's instead ask you if you think our audience thinks we're going to close up on the year. And then B, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week?
I think the audience is bullish. I mean, for me, who cares? I'm so much in crypto. Who cares, right?
Can't see beyond the Bitcoin, sir.
Yeah, that's just it. I think the audience is bullish as well on the markets. In terms of what I'm watching, are the Magnificent Seven going to continue? Because we're getting to a point right now with the markets to where we were at the all-time highs a couple of years ago, and are we going to get through it? And that's what I'm watching right now is the Mag 7.
The Mag 7 indeed, and that is going to do it for us listeners on the option block. Never fear, though, not going to do it for us on the content side on the network today. If you're listening live, back in a little bit for the crypto rundown with our old buddy, Mr. Bill, to kick off the new year. A wild start to the year in crypto, listeners. This ETF driving all sorts of madness, all sorts of vol. We'll break it all down in a little bit on the old crypto rundown. You folks in the live will get it live in your ear holes. You folks after the fact will get it on demand on the podcast side later on today. And before we do that, let's go back around the horn. Mr. Uncle Mike, if folks want to have the Uncle Mike mobile come to their house, where should they go? What should they do?
Go to my website, stcharleswealth.com. Set up an appointment with me. Love to talk to our audience. Always a pleasure.
And Mr. Mr. Rock Lobster, I apologize. I'm so used to the meatball being on Mondays. It's going to take some unprogramming on my part to get used to this. But Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, where should folks go if they want more Rock Lobster goodness in their lives?
Well, a couple of things. You could download our app, and we do a free ticker show on how to set up a trade every week at Option Pit. So you go to our website and get the information for that. Ticker shows on Monday. It's free to anybody who has our app. The site, I'll have more information about that. Of course, I don't even know how to get it, but I know it's there. Support at optionpit.com. That's where you go. Support at optionpit.com. It's been very popular. We've had some great trades. So good trade management, how to manage your trades, put trades on, look for trades. The ticker show. That is correct. The ticker show.
Well, if you need a ticker, I just gave you Safe Bulkers. I mean, the ticker's not that great, but the name is awesome.
I know. How can you go wrong with Safe Bulkers? And then I manage 5 products at Option Pit, all wildly profitable. So they are our Pro course, weekly profit cycles, the Easy Trade button, our OP mentoring with Div Plus strategy, and lastly, the trading desk. I do that with Mark. So again, depending on the type of trading that you want to do, we have a product for you.
There you go, optionpit.com, the place to go. We got to get on out of here. Back again in a little bit for the crypto rundown, then back again with our usual assortment of content throughout the week until we're back again on Thursday from the Chicago studio for another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.